welcome to the Book Bunch. My name is Sam. It's so great to have you guys here for another video. I have some disappointing reads this week, and one was alright, and then the other three were a bit disappointing for various different reasons. So we're going to go through them. I'm going to do from worst to best. These are all sci-fi reads this time. But I wanted to share my thoughts with you because even though these aren't the best recommendations, it's good for you guys to know my thoughts on books. So we've got After Earth, which is originally a movie that was then adapted into a book, which is a bit unusual because normally it's the other way around. But yes, I picked this up at the op shop. Thought I would give it a go because it sounded really cool. I haven't actually seen the movie, and I might give the movie a go rather than the book because I just don't know if it should have been turned into a book, if that makes sense. I ended up DNFing this ultimately because the writing was terrible. I didn't enjoy it very much because the way that the writer had done it, he did it from the boy's point of view, and the voice that they wrote him in just was not interesting. It was very naive and basic, is what I'll describe it as. And I was hoping that you would get to the actiony parts fast enough that his voice wouldn't be so boring, I guess, but it just didn't pick up as quickly as I had hoped it would. So I didn't even get to the main part of the story, and I think I got like 40 or 50 pages in, and it just never got interesting. Even though the very first scene is like very action heavy, it was also very gruesome, and like I don't really know who the target audience is meant to be for this because it wasn't clean. I wouldn't say it was clean, but it also felt like it was written for kids, like because of the main character's age and his voice. It felt like it was meant to be a middle grade, but then it had all this inappropriate stuff in it for middle grade age, so it just didn't make sense to me. And again, maybe that's why it should have been a movie and stayed as a movie and never been adapted. But that's just my opinion on this one. Cool. Then we have 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea. I finally read this classic. I had huge high hopes for this book, and that's probably why I didn't love it. Like I would say this is very much like a 3 out of 5. Very, very middle of the road. Because everyone always talks about Jules Verne and how amazing he is and how big of a deal he was as a writer in his time. And I've watched some of the movies that are written off his books and stuff, and they're quite interesting. And I like his concepts. I do like his concepts. But I also feel like, especially in this one, all it was concepts and no actual story. Like there was no reason for it. Like there was no journey that these people were on. There was no like, hey, we've got this goal or this is whatever. It was just like, I'm going to show you all these cool things that I've invented in my head in almost like a slideshow kind of thing. And that's what it felt like. Because we follow this scientist and his assistant and then this other guy that gets roped in, and they go to find this, what they think is a creature that is attacking all these ships. They get thrown overboard, end up getting picked up by this creature, but it's not actually a creature, it's this big submarine thing, which is like way ahead of its time, and they can't leave. They're not allowed to ever leave, and so it's just like each chapter is them just exploring a different part of the ocean, or like a different scientific bit of equipment. That is really interesting. And it is interesting, but again, it just didn't feel like a novel. Like, it didn't feel like it had a story. It just felt like Jules Verne was going, hey, cool, I've invented this cool submarine with these features, or I've invented this sea creature with these features, and that kind of thing. So that's what I have to say about this. It is very short, so if you want to tick off a classic on your list, like this one was like 160 pages or something, and like the text is relatively big, so it doesn't take ages. But yes, it makes me less keen to pick up any of his other work, that's for sure. And maybe this is just his worst one, I don't know. So if you know, let me know in the comments below. Okay, the final disappointing one, and then the one that was actually kind of decent, Sky Hunter. So I picked this up with high hopes, and it's a duology, and I'm very torn about whether I should continue or not, because the story was amazing. Loved it. Loved this world, loved this concept, loved the enemies, loved it. Loved a little bit of I think it's kind of leading to a love story, but not 100% sure. Loved all of that. It would have been a 5 out of 5 star book. However, it's unclean, and it's just unclean enough that I don't know, I feel like I can't recommend this really, at least based on my sensitivities, right? Because some of the violence in it can be extreme at times, and there's also like some references to like sexual immorality and that kind of thing. That does bother me a little bit. This is not a Christian book, so that's possibly why. It is very tame for a non-Christian book. Like, typically when non-Christian books are unclean, they're like real unclean. But this is like probably still considered closed door. I don't know what actually considered closed door, so maybe I shouldn't say that. But like, they talk in passing about these things, like her past experiences with boys and stuff like that, that I think if you were gonna read it, I would only recommend it to adults, because you can be more like separated from that, I guess, and not influenced by it. But yeah, I don't know that I'd recommend it to a younger audience than that, just because, yeah, I wouldn't feel comfortable giving this to my teen, for example. Not that I have a teen right now, but when my daughter's a teen, I don't know that I'd give it to her as a teen. I'd probably wait till she's an adult and she can make her own judgment calls. But apart from that, like, if this didn't have those few sentences, it would have been perfect. So it's up to you guys. I'm leaving it there for you guys. I really don't know if I will finish the duology or not, because I'm not quite sure how it's going to go. But yes, that is my PSA. But basically what this book is about, now that you have the content warning, is we're in this world where it's like set way in the future. Humanity as we know it has passed away. We kind of destroyed ourselves with our technology and various things. And so there's these ruins of this past society, technologically advanced society, and these people live in it, but they are at war with each other. And there's this one city basically that is trying to take control over everything and use all this ancient technology, but do it better than the people before that got wiped out. And as a result, they're turning humans into these horrific creatures called ghosts. And then they send their ghosts to attack the other cities. And it's really full on. It gives me the same kind of vibes as if you've seen the movie A Quiet Place, it's kind of like that, but because like they all have to use sign language when they're fighting these monsters and stuff because they're sensitive to sound and stuff. So it's like similar in that way. And the main character is not deaf, is mute. So she has to use sign language anyway. But yeah, it's really interesting seeing the perspective of someone who does have that disability and does have to sign to everybody, um, because a lot of people won't talk to her as a result, or she can't communicate with them because most, like the ordinary citizens, won't learn it. And so she can only really talk to the people in her squad. Plus, she's a refugee and she's treated very badly because of that by the majority of the society that she's in, even though she's like a hero for their people. And so that was a really interesting dynamic as well, seeing all of that happen. And basically, what happens is they're about to lose the war for good. Um, it's kind of like their last ditch effort. And then this prisoner of war shows up that completely changes the game for them. Um, but yeah, it was a really awesome concept, really interesting story. Absolutely loved it. It's just those few bits of content that if you can skip over, skip over if you're fine with doing that kind of thing. But yeah, don't know how much I can actually recommend it because of that. So read at your own discretion. But then there is Ender's Game, which is the only unclean part about this, I would say, is there's a couple of somewhat graphic fight scenes, and there is there's no swearing, but I think there's a couple of times where they might use God's name in vain. I can't quite remember. For me, like it was there, but it wasn't enough for me to not read the book or not enjoy. Like it was very infrequent. But again, up to you guys. That's why this is a video about disappointing reads, because it was a bit unnecessary to have those couple of things in there that were in there. But it's not a Christian book, so there's that too. This does make me interested to see where the rest of the series goes, because this is part of a series. But you could definitely read this standalone for sure. But this is essentially following this boy named Ender, who is, and I have seen the movie of this actually, so I already knew the ending, but it was interesting seeing this in written form. He basically is part of this society where you're not meant to have 3 kids or more than 2 kids, basically. But because his siblings showed so much promise in regards to their possible military capabilities, because they test them from like birth, basically. But they didn't quite fit what they wanted. They were like almost, but not quite. So they were like, they gave special permission for this family to have a 3rd kid to see if they could get the right mix. And they've been like training, seeing what he does by monitoring him for the first 6 years of his life and seeing how he handles certain situations and certain pressure points and fights and different things. He has a horrible life. I'm just going to say that straight up. He has a horrible, horrible life. And the things that they do to him are horrible. And I don't think this in any way glorifies it. Like they straight up say like, we're destroying this kid and like, yeah, like they're very honest about the bad stuff they are doing in the name of good, for the greater good kind of thing. But they are basically, um, they need a commander who will be able to wipe out this race of bugs that have been attacking them on and off. And they need the right thinking and feeling capacity, of an individual to be the perfect commander to do the job. And because they're like greatly outnumbered, and so it's about like strategy and all of that kind of thing. So they're basically testing him and send him off to this battle school and make him do all these horrible things and throw all these challenges at him to see how he will respond and how he thinks under pressure and all of that. So it's just a series of challenges basically that he has to go through. And you can see the war within Ender as he tries to make decisions and as he realizes that these people are not on his side. They're not doing this for his benefit. They're not doing this because they want to be his friend or they love him or they will protect him or anything. They're purely doing this to get a machine and make a machine out of him. And it's so interesting seeing the like internal war that is going on with him within him as well. It also has a side story throughout, that follows his brother and sister, because they are hyper intelligent and they are doing stuff on Earth while Ender is doing stuff in space. And that was an interesting dynamic as well. Basically, his older brother Peter is like has the potential to be a psychopath if he doesn't, use his intelligence for good. And that's a really interesting, dynamic because the sister is trying to make sure that Peter doesn't hurt people. And yeah, that's like, I don't know, it's really interesting because these kids are playing politics and grown ups and are influencing the world, and no one realizes it's these kids. And yeah, it's just an interesting side story. But yes, there's a big twist at the end. If you've seen the movie, you know what I'm talking about. But yeah, I'm very interested to see where the rest of it goes. I might end up picking up A Speaker for the Dead just to see what that is like. But yeah, their perspectives on God and religion are very interesting. I don't know if that would be bothersome to some of you or not, but you can decide for yourself as well. That is all of the reads from this week. That's everything for today. I hope you guys have a wonderful week. If you have any recommendations, please let me know in the comments below. Bye.